and welcome to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice.
And I am Alfred, Ocansey.
The news is also live on KPMG 107.1 FM across the world at 3news.com, on Facebook at 392.7 FM. Coming up in the next 1.5 hours, anti-corruption campaigners identify a tall list of recent events which they say point to state capture, corruption, nepotism and abuse of power.
We also demand, through investigations into the justification for selling shares in the 4 state-owned hotels, as well as other allegations of conflict of interest, abuse of power, lack of due process, and procurement breaches. We support the TUC and organized labor's call to halt the transaction immediately.
And there you have it. They are demanding urgent action. The maintained culture of accountable governance remains a distant dream, but board member of the National Peace Council urges Electoral Commission also to be mindful of its actions before, during and after the December 7 general elections, warning against exploiting its independence to undermine peace and stability of the country.
Later on this program, minority in Parliament dares the Interior Minister to put out names of persons they claim were forwarded by the NDC MPs for secret recruitment into the security agencies.
We have the latest as well in business and sports coming up over the next 1 hour 30 minutes here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also, we have campaign trail here on your election command center as we build up strongly to election 2024. This is the place to be. Campaign trail here on your election command center.
And Grace Hamwajuman is here with a summary of the news. Grace, take it over.
Beatrice, let's get straight into it then. The Ghana Cocoa Board has announced the termination of its scholarship scheme, citing the implementation of the Free Senior High School initiative. At a press conference, the board chairman of the Board of Directors, Peter McMahon, made public the decision of the board, noting the free SHS policy had rendered the scholarship scheme redundant. It intends to constitute what it calls the Ghana Cocoa Board Education Trust in place of the scholarship scheme, which according to them has lost its core purpose. An independent bipartisan group, Election Watch Ghana, has hit back at the Electoral Commission over the Commission's response to its allegations that stolen biometric voter registration BVR kits are being used to illegally register unqualified applicants on the electoral roll. The EC, responding to the allegations during a news conference, insisted that it had not made any report about missing BVRs. Additionally, the Commission noted that for Election Watch to describe the 5 missing laptops is a deliberate attempt by certain groups to deceive the public. But in a strongly worded rebuttal, the group, in a statement issued on Wednesday, co-signed by Mark Ako and Jude Bauma, conveners of the Election Watch Ghana, stated, among other concerns, that the EC's attempt to downplay the missing BVR kits as just laptops is a brazen falsehood and a deliberate attempt to deceive the Ghanaian people. And before we go, President Akufo-Addo has said that the government is repositioning Ghana's public sector to embrace digital transformation for high efficiency. He observed that digital technology offers unprecedented opportunities to enhance service delivery and improve citizens' engagement. To that end, the President has appealed to the governing boards and chief executives of all public entities to take the initiative to streamline the operations with the digitalization agenda. That's it for the summaries.
Thank you very much, Grace Hamwajuman.
Well, let's get into it now here on Hot Edition. Remember, we're also live on KPMG 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W93.5 in Y and beyond. Board, specifically the Citizens Coalition, a group of civil society organizations against corruption. They are requesting government responses to 7 corruption-related cases. The demands include halting the sale of hotel stakes by Social Security and National Insurance Trust Net to Rock City Hotel, and directing IOCO to investigate the Cecilia Dapa money theft case. Addressing a news conference in Accra, the coalition said these and other recent developments dent the country's quest to maintain a culture of good governance. That's more in the following report.
Society groups include the Ghana Integrity Initiative, Citizens Movement Against Corruption, Center for Democratic Development, and the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition. They argue the current state of affairs in the country necessitates immediate action from citizens and stakeholders.
The Constitution gives us the power as citizens to determine our destiny and heritage as a people. When we see that things are not going well, it is our duty to speak out, to reject, and to denounce all forms of wrongdoing. When we sit and look or watch aloof, then we are making a mistake. Posterity will judge us.
The coalition is requesting government accountability for national interest issues, including halting the sale of significant stakes in state-owned hotels.
We believe that there should be a stakeholder engagement in the preparation and development of accountability and anti-corruption coordination legislation. We believe that all these turf wars and disputes and sometimes publicly between our agencies are not going to help us to fight corruption. But if we're going to overcome that and to streamline that action, we need legislation to cover their coordination. Even an MOU is not enough because we cannot be guaranteed that everybody will comply if it's not a legislation.
They requested the president to submit all petitions on issues similar to the petition for the removal of the special prosecutor.
It is also important to note that the president fulfilled his mandatory obligation under the Constitution and the OSP Act by forwarding the petition to the Chief Justice. Moving forward, we expect the president to remain consistent and forward all petitions before him to the Chief Justice without delay.
The coalition is determined to take further actions if government response to its demands is delayed.
Oh, so that's great, Jiman, there with the details of what the coalition, the Citizens Coalition, a group of civil society organizations against corruption, they're requesting government responses to the 7 issues outlined, and including the latest being this intended sale of some 60% of hotels owned and operated by SNIT to Rock City. The company owned 100% by Brian Champong, the Greek minister, member of parliament for the Beatrice constituency. And that's hot on the banner here on Hot Edition. They're also asking Ioko to investigate the Cecilia Dapa money theft case and matters arising. So these are the demands. And shortly, we'll be connecting on the telephone. Adam Sedano is a co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, one of the CSOs, also a member of the Citizens Coalition, making that demand of the president, and also making a very strong case that accountable governance remains a distant dream. And that's an emphatic statement from them. And so we'll find out exactly why they make the point that the accountable governance remains a distant dream. Now, Beatrice, I want us to run through the full demands of this coalition, the Citizens Coalition, the 7 that they're making. And let's find out exactly what the details are. And then we'll get into some other issues that they are bringing up shortly.
Indeed, and as you rightly said, they've listed, well, not just the issues, but they also explain, give some sort of explanations to them. And I'll just start from point 1, which says, recent development related to accountable governance. And it says, in April of this year, the president released a summary of KPMG's audit findings on the controversial Strategic Mobilization Limited, SML, and Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, agreement concerning revenue assurances in the downstream petroleum sector. The summary of the findings confirmed multiple legal breaches and manipulation of procurement processes by public officers, with the state having paid over 1 billion Ghana cedis to SML in performance fees up till the date of the suspension of the contract. It goes on to say also in May, the Attorney General advised the Economic and Organized Crime, EOCO, against proceeding with money laundering charges against Madam Cecilia Dapa. The OSP, which had referred the matter to EOCO, had found no predicate offense necessary for prosecuting a charge of money laundering. According to the AG, Madam Dapa had been exonerated of corruption by the OSP, effectively closing the matter. Following the advice, EOCO returned the docket to the OSP. It mentions the third case. Again, in May, questions were raised at the sitting of the Public Accounts Committee of Ghana's Parliament regarding payment totaling $11.9 million made to a Chinese company, MS Power China International Group Limited, contracted to build the Pualugu multi-purpose dam and irrigation project. Checks indicate that work on the dam supposed to deal with perennial flooding in the north caused by spillage of the Bagri Dam and heavy rains has not really started, and yet significant payments have been made. In the last few days, we have also observed the appointment of ruling party parliamentary aspirants, Mr. Chinebu Akodiafoku and Joseph Pemka, as head and deputy head of National Investment Bank, NIB, and the Bulk Energy Storage and Transportation Company Limited, BOST, respectively. This is coming at a time when the IMF has flagged the leakages of state-owned enterprises, SOEs, as posing significant fiscal risk to the government finances. Somehow, the urgent need to secure a fully committed management team to reverse the challenges of these parastatical and stop the hemorrhage that continues to blight our prospects for economic recovery has not dawned on those who have been entrusted with power to serve our interests, a situation that would never happen if they were running their own business. So it goes on to talk about some of these cases, but we are joined.
And we have those 7 demands down there, and that statement we'll run through shortly. But let's acknowledge the presence of Adam Senano, who's the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. One of the members of this coalition. Senano, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Beatrice, let's run through the 7 demands.
Exactly. So, yes, so the 7 points, a full petition of the SML agreement, a report from the CID Ghana Police Service on the source of money of Madam Cecilia Dapa, and like I just read to you, urging EOCO to consider its position of not investigating it, a stakeholder engagement in the preparation and development of accountability and anti-corruption coordination legislation, cabinet approval and laying of conduct of public office holders bill. I'll not read the details of that. 5 says a withdrawal of the appointment of parliamentary aspirants to SOE. 6, we demand thorough investigation into the justification for selling shares in the 4 state-owned hotels that we've been talking about since Monday. And 7, on the Pualugu multi-purpose dam. So Adam Senano, your group is part of the CSOs that are demanding all these. You seem, as it were, your group seem alarmed by the cases you cite. That's the case, I believe.
Well, yes, you would notice that our conclusion is that corruption and impunity threaten to engulf and destabilize our republic. And if well-meaning citizens do nothing and just stand by, just being spectators, we are going to find ourselves in a position where there's state capture, systems will break down, and before you know it, the kind of destabilization we've seen in the West Coast might engulf our country as well, because people will not be getting any results for the democratic experience. So yes, we see this as a major threat to where we find ourselves today in our democratic experience.
Now, beyond that, I mean, this petition, and obviously you've been fighting, and your group, you've been fighting corruption for a period now. What is making the groups that have come together think that this time around you're going to make an impact that will change things?
No, we cannot actually state that we're going to make an impact, except that it's a political season. And usually you expect that in political seasons, the parties and their flag bearers would pay much more attention to what citizens are saying. We are hoping we can get strong commitments when necessary. But in this instance, it is the current government that we think that, look, let's not just have the political talk. There are issues happening here and now that we all need to pay attention to. And considering that usually after an election year, what happens is that your economy runs down and then you have much more of a debt. And when we're in an IMF, program, we ought to be paying more attention to any issues of corruption, any issues of graft that come up. And we think that Ghanaians, civil society, media, all of us must pay attention and ensure we don't run our country down before we finish these elections.
So I want us to look at the Cecilia Dapa case specifically. I'm sure you followed the events that happened where Yoko said he didn't see its way forward and therefore had to send the thing back to OSP and all of that. How would you expect Yoko to look at this moving forward? Because you're asking it to reconsider its stance.
We think that Yoko failed to pay attention to the updated Anti-Money Laundering Act. The Section 1.3 of it is explicit. If you have any individual whose assets, properties are disproportionate to the income that they earn, and they cannot explain it, the clause says that that individual shall be deemed to have committed a crime. We cannot find any other interpretation except that Yoko has a mandate, a responsibility to have investigated to establish what is the source of the funding that Madam Cecilia Dapa had in the house. We cannot just say we don't know, we are not investigating. That's not right. So they have a mandate that has not been fulfilled, and we expect them to pay attention to what the law says and come back to us. It will not be good enough for us to keep quiet just because a certain recommendation has been made, when all of us who understand the law know that this one, they have not acted in tandem with the responsibility entrusted to them.
Again, if you look at your concerns about the OSP, you seem to side with those who are arguing that there is an orchestrated attempt to get him out of office. Is that what it is?
Yeah, we on one hand, we accept that Mr. Martin Amidu has a right to petition, and he has done that. The president has appointed the Chief Justice. All of that is fine. Except that we think that the Office of the Special Prosecutor is coming under additional attack because they have stood up, taken up cases that are critical, that involve politically exposed persons. And from where we stand, we believe that citizens must stand with the OSP. We must hold them accountable. But this is a new institution. It was structured to be different from the rest, so that it is taking up the cases that in the past would find that the Attorney General was unwilling to take. And for that very reason, we find that there's a lot of commentary about them, a lot of effort seemingly to undermine the work of the OSP. If you consider that since 2018, they did not have their full complement of staff, probably had just about 15 or so staff all the way up to October 2023. So it's in the last 7 months or so that they have managed to get full complement of staff, and yet they have been in the public space, taking up issues, getting solutions, and preventing corruption. For us in our terrain, it's not the prosecution that matters as much as the prevention, because then you don't go chasing money that has already been stolen.
You've released your petition. Within which time frame do you expect to get a response to it?
To be honest, most of the things raised, ideally, we didn't put a time frame to it, but any responsive government would have come back to the people within 2 weeks. Because all these things are things that are within the immediate purview of the government, and they have the capacity to act instantly on all of them. So in my personal view, I mean, if government was serious about being responsive to the issues raised, within 2 weeks, we'd hear the various relevant ministers speaking on this issue, and ensuring that Ghanaians are sure that they are taking actions where they ought to.
Any responsible government should respond within 2 weeks. If you don't hear anything, what happens next?
Well, the coalition will meet as and when we think that there must be further actions. At this point, we think that it is not just us, But all Ghanaians must pay attention. It appears that we are getting into a season where a lot of things are happening that have to relate with grafts and corruption. Let's report what we see. Let's stand together. For example, let's stand together with the TUC. The snitch issue affects all of us for the future. Let's not let it just be a TUC issue. All of us must be out there saying this cannot happen and ensure that we protect the public purse, we protect the future of this country.
Is there a possibility of seeing legal suit from you, particularly on this snitch issue or even the Cecilia Dapa one?
Is there
a possibility of going to court on these issues? And I just mentioned these two examples.
Oh, yes. We actually discussed that so far the coalition has not gone to court. If we arrive at a point where we think that it's necessary to go to court, we definitely will consider that option and exploit it.
Thank you so much, Adam Senanu, for speaking to us. And that was Adam Senanu, co-chair a citizens movement against corruption. Alfred, you heard him there.
Indeed. And while we are at it, the minority in parliament is daring the interior minister to put out names of persons they claim were forwarded by the NDC MPs for secret recruitment into the security agencies. This comes after the majority in parliament dismissed claims by the NDC MPs that they have been giving 30% slot to recruit people into security agencies. Minority leader Dr. Kesela Tuforsen says the NDC group is exploring petitioning the Commission on Human Rights and Restorative Justice, that's Shraj, over the matter. And they've been talking about this in Parliament earlier today, and also the specific concern they've raised. My colleague Komla Kluche, who is our Chief Parliamentary Affairs Correspondent, is going to be joining me shortly for a conversation on this matter. And this is the Deputy Interior Minister talking about this.
The ministry is doing its best because, the police are our backbone. They are going to work very, very well.
Let's go on to the telephone now. And Komla Kluche is our Chief Parliamentary Affairs Correspondent, is joining me on the telephone for a quick conversation on this. Komla, what more has the minority leader, Dr. Kesela Tuforsen, been telling you about the options they intend to employ to ensure that this suspicion they have about some clandestine recruitment into the security agencies are exposed?
First off, they talk about the need for a bipartisan probe set up by the Speaker to delve into this matter. They make the point that they are not just doing this because, it is a thing that has been going on for a very long while. And so they are going back into time, from 2013 or so all the way down to 2023. And it is to be able to correct the wrongs in the system, they need to do this to be able to ensure that the security services, herein the police service, the army, the immigration, the fire service, and the other security agencies are sanitized of this, for want of a better word, hoodlums that belong to the parties who find themselves in there. The minority leader grounded his position also on the fact that, yes, when the majority held a press conference, they did not address the substance of the matter. When Henry Quarty granted that interview, he didn't address the substance of the matter, but they still stand by their point. And it is because of information that they have. What they are requiring is that there should be sanity in the system. If truly there's a backlog, they are asking that it should be open to the public so people apply. But they dared and say that there's absolutely no issue of a backlog, especially on the back of the fact that there was a release by the police service on, let me just quickly get the the police service had issued a statement signed by Grace Ansa Akrofi, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Director in charge of Public Affairs, on the 7th of July 2023, where they say police concludes its 2021-2022 recruitment exercise. The Ghana Police Service brings to an end its 2021-2022 recruitment process with an invitation to the last batch of successful candidates to report for medical screening and training. We wish all the candidates well as they begin the process of becoming part of our noble institution, charged with the constitutional mandate of maintaining law and order in the country. If this is a statement to go by, they are asking where lies the backlog, because this is a recruitment with specific timelines and dates affixed to it. And so where is the backlog coming from? It should be open and advertised. Non-compliance to what hitherto has been the case, where people will line up, go and buy forms and go for screening, and all that does not happen. It only amounts to secret recruitment into the security services, and that this is dangerous, that they will explore every angle there is. If the parliamentary probe does not favor them or does not favor the good people of Ghana, they are ready to petition Shraj with all the details they have to go into this so that the correct thing is done. But they said they are not giving up.
Any specific timelines they indicated?
That has not been mentioned, but they said this is a development their eyes would be on. It is all about vigilance. This year, they are not going to back down on it, and they would ensure that, strictly speaking, they would insist that the right thing is done, irrespective of the posturing of the government on the matter.
Kamla, appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Kamla Kluche is our Chief Parliamentary Affairs Correspondent, giving us details of what is happening with respect to the minorities' insistence that it is indeed the case that there is recruitment, clandestine recruitment going on into the security agencies, and they are strongly against that position as espoused by the Minister in charge of the Interior, Henry Quartey, that these recruitments ongoing are a backlog and not new recruitment. They're demanding that even if it's a backlog, it has to be advertised so that the public will get to know exactly what's going on. That's the demand. And we'll see how things play out. And they're still live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Is just joining us. It's some 28 minutes after 5 just gone by. The Citizens Coalition Against the Corruption, they're making the point that they want the president to immediately step into 7 issues and demands that they are making. And that's what Beatrice has been talking about with Edem Senanu, who's the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, plus what the minority in Parliament is also demanding. The information we're getting right now, Beatrice, before we get into issues of PIAC, is that private legal practitioner Kwame Akufo has cast doubt on the possibility of impeaching the special prosecutor, Kisi Jabing. In a write-up, the renowned legal expert stated that it would be unconstitutional to remove Kisi Jabing from his post based on Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution. Former Special Prosecutor Martin Amido, as we do know, in a petition has urged President Akufo-Addo to dismiss Kisi Jabing. The petition, dated April 30, cites procurement breaches and irregularities in the acquisition of vehicles for the Office of Special Prosecutor and levels of accusations of misconduct involving judges and the administration of justice at Kisi Jabing's office. The petition has also been forwarded to the Chief Justice, as we do know now, who was seeking to establish a prima facie case in this matter. According to Kwame Akufo in his write-up, he says, quote, "The fundamental question which arises for pertinent consideration is as to whether or not the special prosecutor is an office holder whose conduct can be the subject matter of impeachment under Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution on the basis of a reference by the President under Section 15 of the Office of Special Prosecutors Act 2017, Act 959. He answers that question in the negative, that it cannot be the case, for the simple reason that Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution does not admit of the Special Prosecutor as one where the Special Prosecutor is amenable to the impeachment provisions under the said article. The impeachment procedure under this Article 146 does not apply to the Special Prosecutor's Office. Section 15 of the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act 2017, Act 959, is an illegitimate tool, in his view, which cannot be deployed to amend Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution, and that invariably conduct pursuant to Section 15, supra, is a violation of Articles 289, 290, of the 1992 Constitution. So that's his bid.
Really sounds interesting.
Some detail in there. We'll see how things play out.
Let's bring you that PIAC report. And the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, has urged the government to change its investment strategy to attract investment in the upstream petroleum sector. The latest PIAC annual report reveals crude oil production has declined for the fourth consecutive year in 2023. The report indicates that crude oil production declined cumulatively by 9.2% for the fourth consecutive year in 2023. Professor Elizabeth Adefio Shandoff is the chair of PIAC.
Unexploited fields, so that these unexploited fields can also be brought up into production to give us some more revenues. I think they were not very clear about the mode of spending. But as I stand now, I realize that there has been an improvement in the way that they spend.
And you heard Professor Elizabeth Adefio Shandoff. She's the chair of PIAC. Jubilee Oil Holding Limited liftings were not paid into the PHF for the second consecutive year. So I'm just bringing you details here. And also an ABFA amount of $108+ million was disbursed to the GIIF SPV Viability Fund for the Accra Tema Motorway Extensions Project in 2023 instead of Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. And we'll be having a conversation on this very shortly with an energy analyst as regards really how this is and where we are heading towards.
Indeed, and you're right at this, because if you look at the details of the PIAC report, the Petroleum Holding Fund has been deprived of the Jubilee Oil Holdings Limited liftings over the last couple of years, and it is a violation of the law, because the annual budget funding amount, that amount you mentioned, the ABFA,
yes,
the disbursement itself was not supposed to be used for the financing of these projects, as has been captured in there. So it stands to reason as to who exactly gave approval for these revenues from the oil resources to be used to finance these projects. There's fundamental questions in there. And if you look at the PIAC details highlights, it gives you reasons why we should all be concerned about how our oil revenue is being used. But Dr. Yusuf Sulemana is on the telephone.
Indeed, he's an energy expert. Good evening to you, Doc. Thank you so much for joining us on Hot Edition.
Good evening to you, Beatrice and Alfred. Thank you for having me.
We've just talked about the, should I call it, illegal disbursement of these monies into projects that really should have been scrutinized. And as you might have read, we are witnessing continuous decline in oil production, which is negatively impacting revenues. Beyond what we've just talked about, what do you think is really accounting for this decline, and whether or not we should really be too worried about it at this stage?
Yeah, thank you very much. Indeed, we have every cause to be worried with respect to these developments, especially when consistently we have it happening in these consecutive years, and that's so much worrisome for a couple of reasons. Number one, oil prices are very good at this moment in time. So this is a time that players or producers, oil producers, should have been able to churn up more volumes to be able to earn more revenue, but that's not happening. Now, the reason why, there are some couple of reasons why we had this development. Some of them, I can say, they were avoidable. Others, we just can't do much about them. Number one, Beatrice, if you look at Ghana oil production, ever since we started oil production, it's about a decade, slightly more than a decade. Usually, conventional production dictates that when wells or fields, work through, let's say, to a decade, we have something we call plateau. Plateau means that it will get to a peak, it will stay there, then it will begin to decline. But I think our field has declined very fast. And so, yes, one other reason is natural decline because of the aging of, our reservoirs, which we need to work on to arrest. That's number one, which we can't do much. But with some kind of strategies, probably something can be done. Number two, if you remember, or if you observe Ghana oil fields, it is highly saturated with gas. And again, in a conventional reservoir where the oil is trapped in gas, or where you have the oil saturated to gas, you need to be able to, displace this gas efficiently or optimally to be able to optimize your oil production. That hasn't been done optimally in Ghana. If you remember, as we have now, we used to do a lot of gas flaring. We haven't developed that much of our gas infrastructure. Yes, Ghana Gas came. That was a given. That was an excellent one. By this time, Beatrice, we should have another train of Ghana Gas. What we will do is that two purposes. Whatever oil that is trapped under the gas, with the help of Ghana Gas facility, which is big enough, it should be able to, get the gas off and release the oil. So yes, the second major reason is the fact that we need to work assiduously to be able to optimize the displacement of this gas. Other than that, we have ourselves to blame. And as we speak now, we still have some gas trapped that we need to be able to displace it. Yet we don't have that gas infrastructure. We don't have that investment. We need to look for that. The third reason is operational challenges. Talo hasn't had it, rosy along their production line. They have a couple of issues. One of them was injectivity. That affected a little bit of how much they churn out. And the final reason, which I think is most important, Beatrice, is the fact that for almost how many years, we haven't been able to add any new fields to the 3 fields that we have. Ghana, we operate 3 fields, 10 Jubilee, that is championed by Talo, and then the third one is ENI. These 3 fields has been the one that has been working. If you don't have any other field added, we should forget about increasing our production portfolio. It will be very difficult. At best, we have to be able to maintain the plateau. What I talk about the plateau, where we can maintain, arrest the decline. The best case scenario is to arrest the decline. But the way the decline is going, it means that we still need a lot of investment to be able to, to arrest the decline. So technically, these are some of the reasons that is confronting Ghana as a nation, why we have this consistent decline. But if we make concerted effort, I think we should be able to arrest that. We should encourage the players, and then we should be able to arrest that, Beatrice.
So you talk about aging natural resources. You've also just highlighted the investment bit. And indeed, in that PIAC report, it was very clear that there has been a decline in investment. And before you came on, we talked about, for instance, transferring or disbursing over $108 million into the Accra-Tema Motorway Extension Project in 2023. Combining all of these, how would you say, to what extent these challenges have brought us where we are?
Yeah, so you're right. Those kind of lack of prudence in our ability to be able to put money where it belongs, it's also contributing to the investment drive. In the oil and gas industry, like I mentioned, if you want to maintain, it's not like a well that you drill and it will continue to produce for you. You need to maintain the reservoir. And the only way you can maintain the reservoir is to invest. So whatever money that you are getting, if you don't invest it back, you're going to have yourself to blame. So what this channeling this money to other sources will do is to stop that. To stop that kind of investment. So unfortunately, with the Jubilee holding, JHL money being lodged into a different account and held up there without bringing it back to the mother fund, which is the Petroleum Holding Fund. There's that semblance of transparency and opacity, So what I'll urge is that if we don't do that, it's just like the cash waterfall mechanism. Every single money that we are going to take from Petroleum Holding Fund that is going to all other areas will be impacted. That's what it's going to mean. And one of the monies within the Petroleum Holding Fund, that's also another area where we have money that we can give to the players, GMPs and other players to reinvest into the system to keep the system running. But if we starve the Petroleum Holding Fund with that huge amount consecutive years, I think it's a problem. So yes, it has everything to do. It's also contributing to where we find ourselves. And then I think we will need to have some punitive measures, because this is what I think people can do whatever they want and they can go scot-free. PIAC is doing a beautiful job, but what's the use of churning out this information when people cannot adhere to that? We can have people, growing, bigger than institutional requirement. That cannot hold. And so, and so far as oil production is concerned, yes, once the money is coming and you don't make that concerted or deliberate effort to plow some back to your reservoir, to plow some back to maintain your reservoir and possibly look for new wells, you're going to have yourself to blame. So yes, I find it very unfortunate and the high time we come back to, to stay on course and putting the money where it belongs, the better for us. Other than that, almost every other thing that we are getting from Petroleum Holding Fund is going to be impacted, including our own developmental agenda. But for me, as an oil producer, what matters to me most is how much money that is there to be able to reinvest. That money will be impacted if you don't channel this money back to the mother fund, which is the Petroleum Holding Fund.
You talk about punitive measures. Who should be punished?
Yeah, so people are in charge, Beatrice. This system, we have the rules, the regulation. People are in charge. Those who are supposed to ensure that the disbursement is done, they have to be taken responsibility, especially the finance ministry. The finance ministry should take full responsibility, and especially finance and aging ministry, they should take full responsibility with respect to the fact that these monies are not lodged the way they're supposed to be lodged. But see, the problem is if you look at PIAC and the government appointees and staff, it's the same thing that happened with ECG and what was it, PURC. These are beautiful agencies that we set up, and agencies that are working under these particular beautiful agencies, they cannot go by the rules and dictates of what these agencies prescribe. Then we have a problem.
So in this case, it's clear that like I just quoted the report to you, monies were not used for what they were supposed to be used for. You're just mentioning the finance ministry and the energy ministry. In this case, what should have happened to both heads of these ministries?
No, they have to be, especially the finance ministry. They are responsible for. They take the overall responsibility of how our budgetary allocations, how our money is disbursed and everything. So, the buck stopped with them and complemented by energy ministry. So yes, the finance minister has to be able to answer why this kind of monies are not lodged where they are supposed to be lodged. The energy minister has to be able to answer why this kind of monies are not lodged where they're supposed to be lodged. Other than that, we can't live like that.
Causing financial loss to the state or just relieving them of their posts?
We have various punitive measures that are, yes, relieving them their posts is one of the reasons, unless they come with cogent reasons why this money didn't go to where it's supposed to go. But I think beyond that, we have to clamp PIAC with that kind of prosecutorial powers to be able to do that. But again, like I mentioned, government agencies taking on another government agency is always a problem. We just need to build our institutions. We need to build strong institutions. Yes, we have these beautiful institutions, PRC, PIAC, and others. But what's the case that they have these institutions and then they cannot work? I think that is not the best. And that we need leadership at the topmost level to be able to do this. And Beatrice, if I may point something very clear, if you look at the root cause of everything that is happening, the rot from every angle that is happening within our space is leadership weaknesses. Look, if you are a leader and you appoint an energy minister, you appoint a finance minister, and the finance minister is doing something contrary, or energy minister doing something contrary to your dictate, you bear full responsibility. You're supposed to be able to take the person on. But I think that is not happening. We need to cut the whip.
Let me ask you.
This is simple money that is supposed to go where it is supposed to go. And it's not only PIAC. Look at cash water mechanism in the power sector. It's the same thing that is happening. I think these things are not acceptable, and the high time we keep them, the better. Other than that, we'll crumple our energy sector.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much, Dr. Yusuf Suleiman. He's an energy expert. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
And you're still live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Now, we're receiving videos and pictures of parts of Accra flooded again after the downpour earlier today. If you go on our Facebook page right now, we're showing you the devastation that has been caused by some of the flooded areas. Unfortunately, in fact, we're getting videos from areas such as the Shangri-La area heading towards the Tetequashi interchange is flooded, and the vehicles are unable to drive through the flooded area. So if you're listening to us heading towards Shangri-La, that's towards the Tetequashi interchange, the flood waters have receded a bit, but it is still causing some vehicular traffic as we speak. So if you can use other routes or alternative routes, please do so. We also received a video of a very dangerous incident that happened somewhere in Teshi, Nungwa. That's on our Facebook page right now. 2 young men narrowly escaped death at Teshi here in Accra after the entire roofing of a building under construction fell off and trapped them just before midday. Strong winds that preceded a heavy but brief downpour is blamed for the incident. And we're showing you videos of this. The construction works, an added story building to the building that's housing a number of businesses, including ADB branch that's somewhere in Teshi at the St. Anne Catholic Church. Teshi was said to be nearing completion. Police and fire service personnel are at the scene as we speak to direct traffic. So that's what's happening.
And actually, Alfred, you can see
right
a saloon car under the roofing. I hope that the driver of that car is safe.
So he's one of the two
injured.
persons who escaped death.
Okay.
Or any form of injury. So that's the good thing that we're hearing right now. And a few weeks ago, a similar incident occurred here in Accra after a downpour accompanied by strong winds left several cars with damages. That's what's going on right now. So if you go on our Facebook page, we're showing you this vehicle, this saloon car that was trapped under this collapsed building. It's an extension of a story building which houses businesses, including ADB Bank, the branch in Teshi, as well as the St. Anne Catholic Church in Teshi as well. So it's on our Facebook page right now, our 3FM927 on Facebook. We're showing you those videos right now. The good thing that we do know about this specific incident in Teshi is that these two individuals who were in their vehicles when this collapse happened have escaped death. But their vehicles obviously have been mangled beyond comprehension, and that's what's happening now. And we're also monitoring some parts of the Greater Accra region. We're getting information from areas such as Nima and then also Kaneshi as well. So we'll be taking you to those areas as we go on here on Hot Edition. But energy analysts are predicting an imminent shortage of fuel in the country if striking tanker drivers don't call off their industrial strike, which began yesterday. Members of the Ghana National Petroleum Tanker Drivers Union commenced an indefinite sit-down strike on Tuesday, May 21, over poor conditions of service. Dan Kanamo is Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC. And Ms. Amo, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition. You'll say if this continues into tomorrow or possibly on Friday, we should get ready for fuel shortages across the country?
What I know as a matter of fact is that your stock levels are, fast depleting. And so for a lot of the fuel outlets, if these drivers do not get back to the road and then get fuel across to the various retail stations, once their current stock levels get depleted, you're simply going to have a situation where people would no longer be able to access fuel. One of the key challenges this is also bringing up is a potential hoarding situation, bearing in mind that the week ahead is likely to also see fuel prices go up due largely to a fast depreciating currency. And so if you don't resolve these issues by Friday, and this goes into the weekend, you are simply going to have a situation where by Monday it will be virtually impossible to access fuel across the country. And we do not want this to happen. So we are asking authorities to do whatever needs to be done, lest we get to a very difficult point.
But and confirm this for me, if you also picked up this information that the NPA intends to engage Central Oil to deploy the over 300 fuel tankers they brought into the country to distribute fuel as this strike goes on by these tanker drivers. Have you picked up this information?
I do not think that the 300 currently have been, certified to be on the road yet. I knew a while back attempts were made to get them to be certified by the authority and calibrations done on them. I am not aware of any recent such certifications or calibrations done that could make them put these trucks on the road. And if you are putting them on the road, I don't know how many drivers you are now training between now and Friday to be able to step in, or you are bringing in the military drivers as the UK had a while back. Whatever it is, you are dealing with a situation where these tanker drivers would far outnumber 300 trucks. And I do not see how the 300, even if you were to deploy all of them today, will be able to meet average national demand. Mind you, on a daily, you are doing about 11.7 million for gas oil. You are doing about additional 10.9 million for gasoline. You put the two together, about 23 million volumes are being recorded on a daily. That would actually give you almost, if you do 54,000, 10 will give you 540, 100 will give 5.4 million. You'll be doing about 400 daily. So whatever happens, you would need to come to a certain truce with these driver bodies, and whatever they are asking for, I am sure should be a very simple issue to deal with. Unfortunately, the long route is what has been used all this while, and I think that if they came to a table, they may be able to find some immediate solution to enable these drivers get back to work. Alfred.
I see. And in the midst of all this, even though there's been a prediction or a projection of a reduction in the price of petrol and diesel at the pumps, we're seeing an increase, rather. What's going on?
Alfred, international benchmarks declined for this current window, which is the second window, May. So naturally, prices should have gone down at the Ghanaian pumps. Unfortunately for you, that was the time the city also decided to have a mind its own and to depreciate very fastly. As it was, just at the start of this window, we were quoting the city around 13.9, 14.2. As I speak with you, some indications I'm picking from some of the BDCs is that they are even quoting city for them at 15.5, between 15.5 to 15.8. It can only mean one thing, and it's likely not to be good. Prices would simply go up the following week if this trend, as is observed today, continues. We're unlikely to come down anytime soon, Alfred.
That's a dagger in the hearts of many of us. I mean, but there's the reality check, is it not? Does it have anything to do with the depreciation of the city?
Unfortunately, the city alone would make sure you pay, between 5 to 10% more on current fuel prices at the pumps. It is just not good enough. The city is not helping at all.
Samuel, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Duncan Amoah, Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC. Not good news. And the reality check is that fuel prices are going to continue going up, all things being equal.
And the thing about the cedi dollar rate, it's not just the 15.50 he talked about. It seems that the forex bureaus have their own rates, because sometimes you get one at 15.50, others are giving higher rates, and even the black market.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about the black market at this point. But there's a lot that's happening, and it doesn't look too good. But anyway, I want to say thank you so much for staying with us. We're going to cross over into business after this quick break. Michael Ugbodu is standing by with more in the world of business, after which we're getting to campaign trail here on your election command center, and also some appointments by the president to the GRA board, and then also the NPA. Interesting names. Interesting names. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Stay with us.
It's lights, camera, music. The stage is set, the stars are ready, and Ghana's biggest night is here. The 25th Telecel Ghana Music Awards Night happening live on Saturday, 1st June at the Grand Arena from 7 p.m. Be part of the extravaganza of rhythm, sheer talent, and high fashion, plus all the drama of who wins what. 170 nominees, 30 awards, plus 18 superstars, all performing live. You can't miss this. Book your tickets now. Starting for 500 Ghana cedis on *713*33*25# or call our hotline on 0501-288-520. The 25th Telecel Ghana Music Awards, powered by Chatterhouse, supported by Guinness, Captain Morgan, Close Up, British Council, TV3, 3FM, and sponsored by Telecel, connecting energies.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Michael Obodu. Coming up, petroleum expert calls for swift resolution of tanker driver strike to avert fuel shortage. Details coming up shortly. Please stay. Let's now bring you our top story. Energy strategist and chief executive of Eureka Energy Solutions, Dr. Isif Sulemana, has expressed deep concern regarding the strike action. The strike by the Ghana National Petroleum Tanker Drivers Union in respect of the proposed driver and maid remuneration framework. He tells 3 Business that the situation could lead to a serious crisis which would result in fuel shortage if the impasse is not resolved immediately.
To the utility points, or where you can add the commercial value to commercial point outlet, is what is critical also. And so if you're unable to transport petroleum products across the country, it's going to be huge. It's going to disrupt the smooth operations of the entire downstream. So yes, they might not be one of the key players within the space or conspicuously, but should they lay down their tools or their go on strike, it's going to be impactful to the sector. So I'll call on the regulator to continue to engage with them to address their concerns, their fears, whatever they have, to be able to prevent that from happening. Other than that, if it does happen, elongate for some time, it will disrupt the smooth operations of the downstream. And you all know what we are facing at the moment at the downstream with high pump prices. That could also cause artificial price hikes if such a sit-down strike is not resolved timeously.
So that was energy strategist and chief executive of Eureka Energy Solutions, Dr. Isif Sulemana, speaking there. Away from that, internal auditors have been urged to ensure their individual organizations are tax compliant. According to President of the Institute of Internal Auditors Ghana, Joseph Dakora, auditors have the responsibility to help their organizations become successful, to contribute meaningfully to national development. He spoke during a visit to the office of the Volta River Authority.
It is a way to go, whether we like it or not. Internal auditors in private organizations also review compliance levels of those organizations by way of providing assurance services. If they do so, and those organizations are reneging on their tax obligations, it is incumbent on the internal auditors to ensure that their organizations are tax compliant. So, by way of tax contribution from private sector, internal auditors can do that. In private organizations, internal auditors again can provide the same guidance, the same assurance regarding organizational compliance with the tax policies and regulations. That aside, if it comes to resource utilization, if the internal auditors provide advice that contributes to the efficient utilization of resources, these organizations will be more successful. Internal auditors are ensuring compliance with tax laws and regulations. It then means that Ghana stands to gain.
Joseph Dakora is president of the Institute of Internal Auditors Ghana. Amid growing concerns about sustainability and ethical investment, leading voices in the financial sector are calling on investment management firms to integrate environmental, social and governance ESG practices into their operations. This push reflects an increasing recognition that ESG factors are critical for long-term financial performance and risk management, as well as for addressing global challenges like climate change and social inequality. Speaking at the launch of his Alfred's 10-year anniversary, Chief Executive of Eco Capital Investment Management Limited, Dela Agbo, said this approach can enhance returns for clients.
It is a way to go, whether we like it or not, because there are a lot of investors now. That is the criteria that they look at in order to even do the investment. Ghana, currently, we are not big on that yet, but it's going to happen. And if we want to attract foreign investors that are looking at that, we need to position ourselves as such. We want to create funds that will focus on the environment. We want to create funds that will focus on
the society, the social aspect. So we are currently working on a fund that is going to focus on impacts fund. So look at specific funds that will impact specific societies, specific needs. We want to create funds that will look at environmental issues, like green fund, solar, and all those kind of things that people who are concerned about things that are destroying the environment will want to invest money in that. We are looking at funds that will focus on things that touch people.
So that was the Chief Executive of Eco Capital Investment Management Limited, Dela Agbo, there, bringing an end to the business segment here on Hot Edition. For more business stories, please check out our website. It's 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe.
Well, it's time for sports on Hot Edition. My name is Kelvin Owusu-Antah. As the epic clash between Asante Kotoko and Hearts-of-Oak looms this weekend, well, there's a lot at stake between the two clubs as they look forward to getting the final laugh in the end of the season. Well, Hearts-of-Oak are languishing at the base on the 12th position of the log with Asante Kotoko lying 10th. Well, my colleague from Akuma FM, Richard Echampon, takes a quick look at the preparations of the two clubs ahead of the big weekend.
We are 4 days away from the big one. It is the Super Clash. We've checked with Asante Kotoko. They are so optimistic that they are going to win this particular game. Speaking to some players of Asante Kotoko, they've expressed interest in winning this particular game to atone for the bad performance they've shown this season. In fact, one player said that they want to use this victory over Hearts-of-Oak to pacify the supporters for that bad showing they've given them this particular season. The technical team of Asante Kotoko are also poised. Coach Prosper Nate Ogum accept the fact that he and his charges have not delivered this season. And one thing they can do is to win the Super Clash, is to get a convincing win over Accra Hearts-of-Oak, is to do a double over Hearts-of-Oak. We're also picking reports that Accra Hearts-of-Oak are thinking that a good win at the Babaya Sports Stadium will also make their supporters happy, will bring some hope to the Phobian family, and they will overtake Asante Kotoko on the league log. Kotoko leads them by only 2 points. So if Hearts-of-Oak should get a win at the Babaya Sports Stadium, then they will leapfrog Asante Kotoko. They will move to 41 points, and Kotoko will remain at 40 points. Reporting from Kumasi, Richard Echampon, Akuma Sports.
Richard Echampon, Akuma Sports. But before we get into the thoughts of the big men who are coaching the two teams tonight in the finals of the UEFA Europa League, well, the lineups are already out, and let's take a quick look at the starting 11 for Atalanta and Bayer Leverkusen at the Dublin Arena in Aviva, Ireland. Well, for Atlanta, there is Joan Musso, there is Isaac Hien, there is Twain Koumainis, there is Ademola Lookman, Edison, there is De Catalari, there is Jim City, as well as Kolasinac, Zapo Costa, and Skamaka will lead the line for Bayer Leverkusen. They have the goalkeeper Matej Kovai with Stanisic in defense. Hinakap Jonathan Ta is there. There is Florian Vert. There is Edmond Tapsoba, the Burkinabe. There is Grimaldo. There is Amin Adli, the Moroccan. There is Ezekiel Palacios, Jeremy Frimpong, the Netherlands international, and former Arsenal midfielder Granit Xhaka. Xabi Alonso is returning for the first time to Ireland since he stayed there in his early years. He speaks about the big final coming up in the next 50 minutes.
No, at that moment it was not on my plans what I was gonna be. I came here 14 to Kells, and I enjoy my summer here. So, but it's always great to come back to Dublin. I feel that connection since then. My Liverpool years as well. The connection with Ireland is really strong. So it was great to be here. The stadium is fantastic, and you know, for our fans, for sure they will enjoy the whole day, the pre-match, and the game is going to be a great atmosphere.
Well, the game is going to be a great atmosphere for Bayer Leverkusen. It's a chance to etch their name into the history books with an unprecedented, unbeaten treble winning season. Xabi Alonso's side has already claimed the Bundesliga title and now just 90 minutes away from completing a remarkable 51-game unbeaten run across all competitions, something no team has ever achieved before. Well, on the other hand, Atalanta are desperate to end their 60 wait for major silverware. The last time the Italian club tasted glory was way back in 1963, and this Europa League final represents a golden opportunity for them to break that jinx, according to their coach Gianpiero Gasperini.
We need to be conscious of the fact that we're up against a top side. The statistics speak for themselves when it comes to their league matches. The results they've got in the Bundesliga are there for all to see. But both in Italy and in Europe, we've come up against a number of very strong sides. And so we need to make sure that we have a lot of self-confidence and self-belief as well. We have acquired that.
Well, kickoff is at 7 p.m. Gianpiero Gasperini with his thoughts there. Now, before we get into the local scene to talk about Dreams FC, Chelsea are still looking for a manager to be waiting on which manager they are going to appoint. Kavis Hohekol has given an update on the men that Chelsea will be looking up for. Well, it was reported that Thomas Frank was part of the managers who are in the lead to get that particular job. But here is an update from Kavis Hohekol, who speaks about Kieran McKenna, Sebastian Younes, and also Enzo Maresca, who are in the higher chase by the Bullies for the job.
Well, the significant development this afternoon has been that Chelsea have stepped up their interest in the Leicester City head coach Enzo Maresca. Now, he is a very interesting candidate for the Chelsea job because he's only actually been a head coach for 2 seasons, 1 season at Parma and last season at Leicester City. But of course, he's worked under Pep Guardiola. He was a coach at Manchester City, and his sides play a very similar kind of possession-based football to Manchester City and Pep Guardiola's sides. Now, at Leicester City, of course, he's been very successful. They were top of the Championship. They've been promoted to the Premier League. But there are issues behind the scenes because Leicester City are facing this PSR charge, which could see them start off next season in the Premier League with a points deduction. So it would not be the biggest surprise in the world if Enzo Maresca was to leave Leicester City this summer. And actually, one of our colleagues at Sky Italy, Gianluca Di Marzio, he's reporting this evening that he believes that Maresca is the leading candidate for the Chelsea job. Now, that is not my information. My information is that Chelsea would like to speak to him, and he is one of the candidates.
He is one of the candidates according to Kavisol Hikol. Before we end the sports on Hot Edition, the update from the Ghana Premier League outstanding match. Dreams FC defeated Lagos City's 2-0 at Jenny Boatemensa with a brace in the 8th and 9th minute. My name is Kelvin Owusu-Antah. Hot Edition continues with Beatrice. Same time tomorrow, we'll bring you a lot more here. But log on to 3 Sports GH for the latest updates.
And we're still here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Thank you very much, Kelvin Owusu-Antah, for bringing us the latest in sports. There's some news coming in from the presidency, and it's a press release coming in. It says President Akufo-Addo releases the KPMG report on GRA SML transaction. If you've been following us since 5 p.m., you would realize that our top story was about 7 CSOs demanding some 7 questions and asking the government to address certain issues bordering on corruption. One of the main issues has to do with the GRA SML deal, and the presidency has released the full report it's over 300 pages as given by KPMG. But there's a statement actually attached to the release of this report from KPMG, and I'll just give you details of that statement. It says that on 24th April 2024, the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, received a request from the Media Foundation for West Africa under Section 18 of the Right to Information Act 2019, Act 989, RTI Act, for a copy of the KPMG report on the contract and transactions between the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, and Strategic Mobilization Limited, SML. The President had commissioned KPMG on 29th December 2023 to undertake an inquiry to gain a clear understanding of the matters in controversy and to be properly advised in taking the necessary decisions. Bearing in mind the provisions of the RTI Act, particularly Section 5(1)(a) and (b)(i) of the Act, the President denied the request by Media Foundation for West Africa, MFWA, since the KPMG report constitutes matters exempt under Section 5 of the RTI Act. It goes on to quote Section 5(1)(a) and (b)(i) of the RTI Act, which states that information, that's quote, information is exempt from disclosure where the information is prepared for submission or has been submitted to the President or Vice President for consideration or contains matters the disclosure of which would reveal information concerning opinion, advice, deliberation, recommendation, minutes, or consultation made or given to the President or Vice President and is likely to undermine the deliberative process on the part of the President or Vice President, unquote. Now, furthermore, there has been judicial pronouncement in a case involving the Media Foundation for West Africa that a request which falls within the categories of information exempt under RTI Act can be lawfully declined. The KPMG report comprises opinions, advice, deliberations, and recommendations that are integral to the President's deliberative process and therefore qualifies as exempt information under Section 5(1)(a) and (b)(i) of the RTI Act. Thus, the Office of the President was justified in turning down the request from MFWA for a copy of the KPMG report. I'll just read the final page, which is the second page of the statement issued from the Communications Directorate of the Presidency, signed by Eugene Ahin, Director of Communications, Office of the President. On this final and second page, it says, it is important to recount that even before the request from Media Foundation for West Africa, the President had, on 24th April 2024, caused to be published a detailed press statement outlining KPMG's findings and recommendations, as well as his directives to the Ministry of Finance and GRA. The Office of the President reiterates the necessity for those who file applications and requests under the RTI Act to have a thorough understanding of its provisions. It is vital to appreciate that the legal framework for access to information includes safeguards intended to protect the sanctity of decision-making at the highest levels of government, which must not be compromised or misused in the pursuit of access to information. However, the President, in the interest of full transparency in governance, openness and honesty with the public, has decided to waive the privilege under Section 5 of the RTI Act and has directed the publication of the KPMG report in full. A copy of the KPMG report can be accessed from the website of the Presidency, www.presidency.gov.gh. Like I told you, this is a statement coming in some minutes ago from the Office of the President, signed by Eugene Ahin, Director of Communications, basically and essentially saying that the president has decided to release the report for the sake of transparency in governance, although the Section 5 of the RTI Act gave the presidency some privileges to contain or keep the report, as it were, because of what the president calls safeguarding intended, so including safeguards intended to protect the sanctity of decision making at the highest levels of government, which must not be compromised or misused in the pursuit of access to information. The presidency saying it's decided to go away with or do away with Section 5(1)(a) and (bi) of the RTI Act, which gave it the power to shelve, as it were, the report. Again, if you're just joining us, the presidency has released the KPMG audit report that a number of CSOs, including the coalition, anti-corruption coalition, had demanded that the presidency releases just for the sake of transparency. You're still here on Hot Edition. My name is Beatrice. I'm doing this with Alfred Ocansey. And you're still here on Hot Edition. Welcome to Campaign Trail. On Campaign Trail tonight, a board member of the National Peace Council, Mulvi Mohammed bin Saleh, is urging the Electoral Commission to be mindful of its actions before, during and after the December 7 general election, warning against exploiting its independence to undermine peace and stability in the country. Speaking to 3FM News on the sidelines of the launch of the National Election Response Group, Mulvi Mohammed bin Saleh minced no words in calling out the Electoral Commission to be diligent in the discharge of its duties, while cautioning the political parties to be mindful of their utterances when addressing grievances.
Independent they are, yes, but that doesn't stop them from listening to the Ghanaians, listen to the wisdom from our elders, and so on and so forth. They should not, under any circumstances, hide behind the independence to refuse to consult and listen. If they put their act together and do it well, they can put Ghana together and they can place Ghana on a pedestal of peace and progress. But if they do not put their act together well, they can also break Ghana. And posterity will not forgive them if it so happens. It is very important for them to know that at the end of the exercise, Ghanaians should be there, living, happy, and prepared to help. If they must become leaders of this country and successful leaders. Therefore, every political party must know that whatever they do during this electioneering period, they must ensure that it is in the interest of the Ghanaian. It's in the interest of peace and unity of the people of Ghana.
And you heard the board member of the National Peace Council, Mulvi Mohammed bin Saleh. The Deputy Minister for the Interior and MP for Gomwa Central, Nana Eya, also said that her outfit is equally concerned and will be working closely with security agencies to ensure peace is maintained.
the ministry is doing its best because the police are our backbone. They are going to work very, very well that there will be a peaceful election. I know they know what to do, but we are so asking that they should do more because it's like there are some.
And you heard the Deputy Minister for the Interior. Now, the National Election Response Group, which was launched, aims to discuss, develop and recommend response strategies to violent threats to the December 7 general election. And shortly, we'll be speaking to a representative from the West African Network for Peace Building, WANEP, on some of the signals they've been picking themselves less than 8 months to the elections. But obviously, Alfred, it seems the National Peace Council may be standing on something, the reason they are asking all the stakeholders to be mindful of what they do, the actions and inactions ahead of the 7th of December.
Indeed, and that's exactly what is expected of them, is it not? And also the demands that they are making for a little more commitment to ensuring a peaceful election. But let's go back to that breaking news as this came through a few minutes ago. President Akufo-Addo releasing the KPMG, the full report of this KPMG audit of the SML-GRA deal. Now, this comes weeks after a section of Ghanaian civil society organizations all making the demand that the full report be released after the president released portions of that report and then his opinion as well on it. Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner. He's one of the persons who's been leading this charge to have this full report released. He's joining us on the telephone. Counsel, appreciate your time. The full report has been released now, over 300 pages. Now it's out. Then what next?
Yeah, so we are going to pour over it and come out with the nitty-gritty, the details of how Ghana was fleeced through the actions of government officials, the Minister for Finance, Mustafa Hamid lying to us in the documentary, etc. So it's good the president finally released it, but it's a shame that we had to drag him. We had to criticize him and make so much noise when he just simply had to release it. Because the basis for saying he hasn't done that well is that we expected that he would have released it without much rancor and criticism so that it will mark an improvement over John Mahama's performance on the GIDA report. But Akufo-Addo dragged it too long. It's like, so we've not made progress. That's where that's what makes me sad, because we expected that he would be swifter. I mean, well, this generally accords with his poor showing on the fight against corruption. Yeah, because he's very corrupt. He tends to protect corrupt officials, etc. I know this one hits home. This one, his brother, Ofuyata, is deeply involved. So you see that he was trying to protect the family's honor, but finally he couldn't. So he had to relinquish the report.
I'm looking at the last part of the statement that was released preceding the release of this full report. He says he did so, or the president, in the interest of full transparency in governance, openness and honesty with the public, has decided to waive the privilege under Section 5 of the RTI Act and directed the publication of the KPMG report in full. I mean, does that send any signal to, as it were, influence this earlier position that you've just espoused?
No. Okay, in a sense, he's now coming to what was always obvious from day one. Yes, so in a sense, he's now doing the obvious, the needful. Because Section 17 of the same Act says that notwithstanding Section 5, which talks about deliberations, etc., and notwithstanding any provision of that Act, you can always publish if it's in the public interest. And the public interest for this publication had been overwhelming. It was so glaring. So really, President Akufo-Addo, well, it's difficult in this case to even say better late than never, because he has waited for too long. We have to criticize him over and over, dragging Like doing, no. It's a shame that he just hasn't been able to fight as much as he was built to be. You know, he hasn't lived up to the billing at all. It's a fortune. We'll see how it goes.
Indeed, we'll see how it goes. And this has just come through over 306 pages. That's the full report, 306 pages as we have it. And has some opinions and advice, deliberations, recommendations, all of that captured in there. One aspect that, if you recall, when the president put out that earlier statement, that included the president's own opinion of what the report entails, is that bit about the parliamentary approval not being sought for certain aspects of this deal. I mean, is it an area that you will also be looking at quite strongly in this full details of the report?
Yes, absolutely, because that is glaring, because we expect people are paid to vet contracts. That is what some people are paid for, to be specialists in the public financial management act, etc. So it's such a shame that they didn't see this, because people are paid for that. That is their job. Public officers are paid to master the Public Financial Management Act and to apply it to various contracts. So it beggars believe that we paid people and yet they didn't do their job. They slept on the job or whatever, or if their arms were twisted, whichever. So that is one area that we are going to hammer over and over to show that, no, we don't like this backsliding in our governance, because the Public Financial Management Act has been around for some years now. So how come that people we pay to read and to apply it didn't do so quickly, timeously? That's a big problem.
It is
a really big problem. Not something we should gloss our eyes over.
Indeed. Much appreciate your time on this, and I'm sure in the coming days we'll do a lot more engagement on the details of this report. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Martin Pebu is private legal practitioner, and the full report, 306 pages of this KPMG audit into the GRA SML deal, is on 3news.com. So you can visit 3news.com. You get the full details of this report as released by the president just a few minutes ago. Go on by.
And of course, we'll be digesting that and giving you details as and when we find them in that 300 plus page document. We brought you a story about President Akufo-Addo appointing Joe Garte as the new board chair of the Ghana Revenue Authority. So Mr. Garte, who is the current member of parliament MP for Esikado Ketan, replaces Dr. Tony Oting Jesse. Mr. Garte is tasked with reforming the GRA and streamlining its activities. Now, Dr. Anthony Oting Jesse led board of the Ghana Revenue Authority, which is spearheaded the country's revenue mobilization effort, was dissolved by President Akufo-Addo on Thursday, the 28th of March. So we'll be bringing you more of that. You can also get more details on 3news.com.
Oh, that's it for Hot Edition. There's more news on 3news.com. Join me and the rest of the team at 10 p.m. on TV3 for Ghana Tonight. It's going to be giving you the details of this 306-page full report of the KPMG audit into the GRSML deal, plus some more details into this SNIT intended sale of some 60% of its shareholdings into some 4 hotels to Brian Champong, their Greek minister. We're getting some exclusive detail, so make some time and join us at 10 p.m. on Ghana Tonight on TV3. My name is Alfred Ocansey.
My name is Beatrice. Thank you so much for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of our programs.